So this podcast was around 57 minutes long, and this is one section of it that we talked about aviation, joysticks and multiple different things. Now as per usual, Ed rants on about lots of things, and if you feel offended or dislike anything he said or disagree in general, then leave a comment and tell us why. Now like I said, this is one part of the podcast and we have many more to go, so if you want any more of it, then leave a like and tell me what you think.
Well, I did a post a little while back, and I think almost everybody on the forums, mostly it was joystick monkeys trying to defend it, but they failed to see the point. There was to give you an example, I had a sort of absolute arse jockey on my tail the other day, wobbling all over the place trying to shoot me, and I shot him down. And then he spent the rest of the game absolutely raging about mouse aim noobs, mouse noobs, joysticks the only way to do it. Because planes have control sticks, they should always be joysticks. If you want to play that way, do it. Absolutely. You'll need to get two joysticks when you play tanks, because tanks, don't forget, have control sticks, unless you get the Tiger, and then you're going to need a steering wheel, because the Tiger didn't have that. So make sure you buy a steering wheel. Fisher-Price do a really nice one with a big moo-moo cow in the middle. You can play that one. Now, obviously, the tanks have also got mouse-aim turrets. Now, you don't like mouse-aim, you like realistic, or as much as the original controls were. So you're going to need to get your brothers or sisters in. I was going to say friends, but you might not have any. And they're going to have to operate a separate turret control using a little pair of cogs, or maybe an electrical transmission or turning system, if you have that.
Or a hand crank.
Yeah, you're going to need that. When they bring ships in, there's quite a few places online, but you're going to need to buy a ship steering wheel. Obviously, because that's not going to work with a joystick. So you're going to need a ship steering wheel. They're quite big, but if you've got a computer desk, you might be able to put it in front of your desk, maybe. And that's what playing the game, if you want to be realistic, like. So, oh, and bombers, by the way, many bombers don't have control sticks. They got yokes, 2 yokes. So you're going to need to get somebody sitting next to you to fly your bomber. Yeah? No, exactly, you dumb fuck. So if you want to go on about how planes have control sticks and therefore you must have a joystick, go and buy a pair of yokes so you can fly a bomber. Go and buy a fucking ship's wheel for the ships. Go and buy a steering wheel for your Tiger. Otherwise, shut the fuck up.
Exactly. Oh my.
Dozy fucking cunts.
That's such mental, man.
And loads of people, I'm sure you put your thing on Reddit and go, oh, I don't know what he's talking about. Well, I do know what I'm talking about. And don't come on one of these people say, oh, well, I'm a fucking pilot. Well, you're a fucking pilot of a Cessna, you cunt. If you are a Spitfire pilot and you fly a historical Spitfire and you're one of those privileged to do it, or you've got a P-51 in your collection, by all means, link up a picture of you actually flying it. Then you can comment and say, oh, the flight model's wrong. Go for it. But don't sit there and say, I'm a Cessna pilot and the Spitfire flight model's wrong and it doesn't do this and that, because you don't fucking fly one.
What was that you called them? YouTube warriors, all that shit?
Fucking YouTube warriors.
Yeah.
I watched something made on Discovery Channel about how America saved the Battle of Britain and fuck off. You dopey little cunt. It's always the same. It's always, oh, flight model's wrong on this or flight model's wrong on that, because you're a fucking aviation expert.
I know.
What experience do you have? I once flew on a EasyJet to Tenerife. Piss off.
I've been saying this to people for ages, and they just don't get it in their fucking heads.
I am fucking sick of YouTube warriors. Bad enough that me and a couple of them have to go through Wikipedia now and then and fucking delete entries. We had to delete one about IS-3s fighting tigers and how the IS-3... It didn't fucking happen. So stop talking absolute fucking pig shit. If you've studied a subject, I am not an aviation buff. I hold my hands up. I am not a plane expert. I know more than some, but I'm not a plane expert. I'm able to hold my own on quite a few subjects, but again, I get picked up on little things. Tanks, I know a lot on.
Yeah.
I'm good with tanks.
He's really good with tanks.
That's what I've done. My entire life has been spent with tanks. So, yeah, I can speak on that subject. But if your entire experience is based on watching YouTube, then don't comment. I'm sick of fucking little wereaboos like, oh, the Tiger was the best tank in the world. No, it wasn't. So don't talk about shit like that. Ferdinand was crap. It couldn't do it. Don't talk. You don't know what you're talking about. You have no idea what you're talking about. You've watched a little bit of YouTube. End of.
Exactly. That's where they all come from. That's exactly what it is.
Something I was discussing with a member of staff at Bovington. They get a lot of calls, especially with the centenary, saying, oh, so, how does a tank work? And their answer is, even though they can get money, they're like, right, first of all, buy a book. Once you've read that, come back to us with some sensible questions.
Yeah.
Sorry, unbelievable amount of fucking rage at people. Like, the forums are continuously full of people saying, "Oh, this flight model's wrong. That flight model's wrong. This doesn't turn like it should."
How the fuck do you know?
How the fuck do you know? I watched a YouTube video of it once. Well, how do you know that pilot was putting into its full turn? How do you know he wasn't giving a... You don't know.
As even Ed was saying to me, the 109s and all that shit, not necessarily boom and zoomers, really, in real life.
No. There's plenty of good old dogfighting with them. And this is it. This is another thing that games cause problems, There are a lot of people now that think that the KV-1S existed. Prototype testbed, different transmissions, and that gun was mounted on a vehicle and it didn't work very well, so they didn't use it.
Yeah, if that KV-1S fired that fucking gun, the crew would be half dead.
But the point is, they actually believe, the amount of people that believe that vehicle existed because of wargaming is very, very fucking frustrating now. The amount of people that believe that most Germans were knocked out because of frontal engine fires due to wargaming is annoying. Very, 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 very few recorded cases are happening, but there we go. These games don't take into facts that the Russian tanks are incredibly cramped. I've pointed out in some of the videos when we've been inside them. They are incredibly cramped, very stressful for the crews. That massively affects performance.
Yeah. I mean, that T-70, oh my god, I watched you going in that. On Jingo's video, you fucking hell, you could barely get your head in there.
Well, if you watch anything by the Chieftain when he's being Kubinka going inside some of the vehicles, I mean, that man's, what, about 6 foot, but he can't fit in some of the stuff.
Yeah.
Little bits piss me off about this game, how history seems to get absolutely altered. So everyone goes, oh, but American planes are boom and zoomers, Germans are boom and zoomers. And yet, if you look at the gun-sinning footage from the Battle of Britain, they're not booming and zooming, they're fighting for their lives, trying to get on each other's tails. And most of the gap battles are over literally in seconds. They meet, people pair off into dogfights or disappear, and it's over. You're in a clear sky.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't a case of going, oh, the Germans... In fact, the British were usually waiting because of the chain-home radar system. The British knew the Germans were coming. The minute they left the coast of France, the Brits knew they're on their way. They'd get up, get in a position above them, waiting to ambush them. Not every time, so the Germans didn't clock on too much what was going on, but most times the British were in a position to dive on the Germans.
Yeah. How's that? British boom and zooming Germans.
The Brits were waiting for them. That was chain home, the advantage of having radar. We knew when you were coming, and we'd also broken your stupid Enigma code later, so we knew everything you were doing. But it just annoys me. The amount of people go, oh, well, you're not using Americans. Americans are historically boom. They're not historically boom and zoom.
What the game teaches you is not what you should take into consideration. It's okay for beginner learners and all that shit for little bits of information here and there, but it's just not what to go by.
You can spend a lifetime studying this subject, and there will still be stuff you don't know.
Yep, there's no way to know everything. I mean, you didn't take part yourself in what actually happened.
Yep. There are pilots that will say that this happened or that happened, but that affects that pilot. That pilot might have flown differently. Some pilots might have only been in 1 or 2 dogfights, and they were lucky they survived. So don't always take what they're saying as gospel. Other pilots that died might have been absolutely amazing, pulled off stunts that nobody else did, got them a lot of stuff, but eventually killed them due to an accident. You don't know. There are plenty. There's so much to read out there. I mean, I've got, just looking at my book collection here, maybe 200 books.
Jesus.
On the subject. Just down here, running under the desk and around the side of the room. 200 books on this stuff. I've read most of that stuff, and still there is stuff that I learn every day on the subject.
Yeah. I mean, I've done that a few times as well. Just take for granted what the game tells me, but it's just, no.
Yeah. I mean, the people that rely on Wikipedia, that's the most annoying one.
Wikipedia's, I mean, we've used Wikipedia a lot for especially building that tech tree that you made. I mean, it's good for bits of information here and there.
Yeah, it's good for a reference material, and we used it to sort of look at different stuff. And then, as you're well aware, we then went and looked at the more sort of detailed subject, found 4 or 5 different websites that backed it up, made sure the information was backed up by accredited books, A
lot of Wikipedia is just storytelling. I mean, it's so altered to fuck.
Wikipedia, it depends on who's writing the article,
Yeah.
And who's edited it, and whether the original guy's gone back to make sure that somebody else hasn't had a look at it and changed it. It's a very, very good starting piece of reference material, but it shouldn't be relied on. Especially, as I said, we've had to change things about Tigers fighting IS-3s on one article at least. based purely on somebody that's probably new to the thing, played computer games and thought, oh, well, that must have happened.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think Gaijin based a lot of their shit off of Wikipedia. Seems awfully similar.
I think Gaijin based a lot of their stuff out of Ladybird book, My First Plane. Big, thick cardboard that you can wipe your food off and is chewable on the corners. Yeah, so it is endlessly frustrating. I mean, one of the things that really pisses me off in this is that, you know, sometimes on the forums, Gaijin reference this historian, you know, they contacted. And there's a couple of historians. You got Mark Barber, he's a flight lieutenant. He's actually a current pilot in the Royal Navy Fleet Air Arm. And so, you know, he probably knows a little bit about flying planes. But mostly he writes really great articles. I'm sure you've read them. They've also got another historian. He's the one that's responsible for the bomb damage. Now, having worked with things like the EOD, that's the Bomb Disposal Squad while in the police, I can absolutely guarantee you, we didn't close down. I mean, Southampton still finds unexploded bombs every year. You know, we got bombed pretty badly in World War II. We still dig them out from, you know, 500-pound bombs, 500-kilo bombs, you name it, we find them. We do not close down several streets and evacuate anything up to within a kilometre area if they've got a blast radius of 1 metre.
Yeah.
We do that because they send a blast from a bomb is absolutely devastating. You know, Operation Goodwood, some of these bombs were tossing Tigers upside down 50 metres. There are Panthers blown over left and right on their sides. That's a game over for a tank. Even a mobility kill is usually game over for a vehicle. So aerial bombs in this are nothing like the real thing.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, that's a whole different discussion. The bombs in this game, fuck me.
Yep.
Back in 1.27, you'd knock out a pillbox or the A around it, and maybe a tank a meter next to it. I mean, fucking hell, the radius.
And what you got to consider is, you go, oh, but has it damaged? It might not have damaged the AA gun itself. What it's done is it's turned the crew's lungs inside out. It's blown their eardrums out. It's done all that stuff. The crew are effectively incapacitated. You know, take the 4,000-pound bomb that you get from a Wellington in your Lancaster. It's known as a blockbuster or a cookie. It's called a blockbuster for a reason. It destroys an entire city block. The Lancaster crews or any plane dropping that had to make sure they're above 6,000 foot to avoid shrapnel. Now, I'm not saying they should put a blast radius at 6,000 foot in the game. Funny though it would be. But at no point should you drop it on an APC and watch an APC 7 meters away get away with nothing but a hit marker. So, as I've openly said it, and I'll say it, I've said it on the forums, I'll say it now, whoever the Gaijin historian is that has claimed that he is accurate and knows the details, I'm taking off my gauntlet, if I had one, and I'm calling you a fraud. Yeah. I don't believe you are a professionally trained or even an educated historian. I think you were found in the suburbs of Moscow living on a bag of old potatoes, and they employed you because you'll accept new potatoes as payment.
Yeah, exactly. That's easy.
You know, yeah, you know, and you don't have to listen to me. You might go, well, you know, you could be speaking shit, Ed. You know, that's not a problem. I don't mind you if you want to think that. If you want to be sure, if you're American, you know, you can go to the Smithsonian or something. If you're a Briton, go to the Imperial War Museum, go to the RAF museums. They're fantastic if you get a chance to go to them, or go to the Fleet Air Arm Museum. Go and talk to the crew that work there. Go and talk to the staff that work there. These are guys that spent their entire lives on planes. They write their own books. They are experts on the subject. Ask them. If you still don't believe them and you still think the Gaijin's telling the truth, then more the fool you. But these museums contain massive reference libraries. Go in there, get the details, read the details.
I mean, what was it? Gaijin won't even visit British museums, only visit Russian museums.
Yeah, that is something. Unfortunately, Gaijin will only sponsor and work with Russian museums. Now, Wargaming, bless their little cotton socks, they have a much bigger approach. They sponsor 7 museums. They sponsor Kubenka, which is obviously the Russian tank museum, very well, but they also sponsor Bovington, which is the British tank museum and probably the best in the world. So they do sponsor outside of Russia. Gaijin won't do that.
Yeah, no, there's your evidence right there.